Good evening. Welcome to our Facebook Live again, and we are back to our Setia Alam outlet, sitting on our Amsala chair today, and we have Jasmine here today to talk about sexual health. So today's our topic will be communication in the bedroom, and I find that a lot of people, even though they are very vocal, sometimes they just cannot express themselves in the bedroom. So when people tell us, communicating with your partner, but what does that really mean?
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, even as a teenager, they would always say like communication is key. So what does communication mean and why is it so important? So communication, it's important because it reduces miscommunication. It actually allows us to really talk about our boundaries, to talk about our consent, which is actually very, very important. It also ensures us to, feel safe and feel secure with our partner as well as with ourselves. So that's why communication is important, especially with your partner.
Yeah, I always believe over communicating rather than under communicating, right? And I think women, sometimes we tend to want our husband to know what we want without us telling them. I think always tell what you want clearly. Then you will have less disappointment. So, and also, I think sometimes you see some women who are so vocal, can express themselves so well, but when it comes to bedroom, they are unable to tell what they really want, So how can we, communicate more effectively to tell our partner what are the pleasure that we want?
I think when it comes to, and it's true, right? Like a lot of people, I think we're very afraid. One of the reasons why we're so afraid to tell our partners what we want in the bedroom or don't want in the bedroom is because we don't want to say the wrong thing.
Okay.
Like we don't want to hurt our partner's feelings, especially as women. We always say like, don't want to hurt the man's ego and everything.
Okay.
So how can we effectively communicate with our partner? I think the main thing that I personally do is I communicate with my partner at a neutral time.
Okay.
So don't wait until things get really, really bad.
Okay.
The moment you kind of realize, okay, this is something that I sort of want to bring up, but I don't want to bring up when it's not really happening. I want to bring up when it's actually already happening and I caught them in the act. But what happens that time is that your partner might feel triggered or might feel attacked. So I personally like to on a neutral time, when we're sort of having a downtime. So communicate that time. Also be really clear with what you kind of want or don't want. Don't beat around the bush. Just let them know. Sometimes it's quite tough, right? Like to tell them exactly.
Yeah.
But
and sometimes giving mixed message, people really don't know what you want. And I think what you say, like communicating at a neutral time, I think post-sex communication is really good. Like you can say, just now what you did, really, I love that, and things like that. I think post-sex review is really good, so that the next time you can actually your partner better, what they like.
Yeah, I actually like doing that. They always say like having pillow talk.
Yeah.
So pillow talk post-sex kind of conversation is kind of like an aftercare sort of session. So aftercare, whether it be cuddling, whether it be sort of hugging or just talking to each other, I love just having conversation about what worked, what didn't work, what can we do to make it better, and it's actually beneficial, I find.
Of course, I think communication skill is already something that not many people know. And of course, communicating your bedroom needs, I think it will be even harder, right? So why do you think is it so hard for us to communicate what we like or what we need?
It's like what I said just now. It's about not wanting to hurt our partner's feelings. There's also a lot of shame, I think, especially when it comes to sex and pleasure. If we grew up in a conservative family or in a country like Malaysia, for example, there's a lot of shame surrounding pleasure. There's a lot of shame surrounding our bodies. So we might not be able to communicate because we feel shame and we feel like we shouldn't ask for things. Otherwise, we'll be labeled a certain word if we want to be sexual. I think another thing is also because sometimes we just don't know what we want.
Maybe, yeah, you're right. So I think another reason I would think is also you don't feel safe enough and you feel that your partner might judge you.
Correct.
Right. So I think it's also really important to feel safe with your partner, and you are able to be vulnerable and also communicate without judgment.
Yeah.
And what Jasmine said is really right, because sometimes you just don't know what you like or what you want. So how can we know what we want better?
Oh, that's like the $1 million question. How can we know what we want? I feel, and I'm such a huge advocate, and I think you are too, is self-exploration, masturbation, kind of looking at ourselves, sort of explore our bodies. It is, I would always call it as a training ground for us to kind of know which part of our bodies feel safe, what we want and what we don't want. Another way is to maybe have a yes, no, maybe list. I don't know if you've heard of that. Yes, no, maybe list. I think we spoke about that in the past as well. Because sometimes like we don't know what we want, and maybe our partners also don't know what they want. So a yes, no, maybe list is this. Basically, it's a list of all the sexual activities. It can be something very simple or something very kinky or something very naughty. And then so there's 3 columns. There's a yes, there's a no, and there's a maybe. And then what you do is you swap the list with your partner, and you kind of like fill it up and you swap it back.
Yes, sometimes you will be surprised what are their maybe or yes lists. And so I think all partners should do that activities to get to know each other.
Yeah, I think it's really, really fun. I think another way is to also watch something. I think watching something and being inspired by what you watch, or reading something, or having conversation with friends about like, oh, actually, what feels good, what don't feel good, and then kind of practice that.
Yeah, I think exploration, right? Because you need to, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
If you have never tried, you don't know if you like it, right? Like if you have never tried some food, you can't say that, oh, I don't like it, but you have never tried it.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you can just try it, and then you will know whether you like it or not. So I think what Jasmine said is true. Like, if you don't know how to make love to yourself, you don't know how to pleasure yourself, how are you going to tell your partner what you like?
I think also like on that note as well, as much as we talk about like you don't know what you don't know, but there are certain things where you confirm sure die know that you don't want to do it, then that's also very important. So in any case, if your partner were to go like, let's do this, but you already know deep inside it's a hard no, then don't proceed. But if it's it's a yes, it's a no, it's a maybe, I'm open to doing it. So that's what the yes, no, maybe list is. It's a yes, it's a hard no, it's a maybe. Maybe we change a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe don't don't hit me as hard. I don't know.
So I think, and we also change, right? Maybe after a year or 2, your maybe list become yes list, your no list become maybe list, and maybe you tried something and you don't like it, your maybe list become no, right?
Correct.
So it can change all the time. So it's all about communicating. If you don't communicate, maybe you will say, and sometimes I think people are too shy or too, maybe they are just afraid of hurting their partner's feeling. Like, if it's yes to you and no to me, how can I communicate this?
I think that's why when it's a yes to you and a no to your partner, and you sort of have a friction there, I think it's just sort of understanding that a no for them, a yes to you, doesn't mean that you're a bad partner. It doesn't mean that they don't find you attractive or whatever. It's just it's a no. And so finding that compromisation in the middle, or really do all the other things that are yeses for both of you.
And I also think it's also how you communicate, right? Like maybe for your case, it's yes to you and no to me, and you are trying to convince me. You can try to convince me, but not pressuring me, right? Like making me feel uncomfortable.
Because that will be coercion.
Yes.
And that will be like forcing. That doesn't feel good within my body.
Yes.
And you wouldn't feel safe after that if someone pressures you to do something.
Yes. And also at the same time, if you are not okay with that, you shouldn't also judge the person. Sometimes the person say yes to something and you say, then you start judging the person. I think that will be also making communication more difficult if there's so much of judgment there.
Yeah, and that's where you have the open communication, right? Like, why is it exactly that you like this one? What is it exactly what happened in the past that made you not like this one?
How about, sometimes when your partner is too sensitive, how do you handle that? If they feel like, oh, I got hurt because you judged me, kind of thing.
So what I normally do is that my ex used to be like that. He was quite sensitive. He was also like, oh, it's a reflection of me. Whatever you say is a reflection of me. Okay. So I actually had to do a lot of assurance. To tell like, hey, it's not about you, and sort of finding a neutral time where you sit down and say like, hey, so I want to tell you something, or I want to have a conversation with you, and it is not in any way a reflection of you. It's just me sort of expressing myself. So all I need you to do is just to listen. Because sometimes when you feel attacked, all we want to do is try to defend ourselves and try to do all this. And like I would always say like, hey, I just want you to listen, and to listen in a very subjective way. This is how I feel, and just have that conversation. And if they feel like, oh, you did it like that, just listen to them, right? But also at the same time, like really stand your ground. I mean, that's also the important thing. If there is a particular boundary that you really firmly believe in, yes, you listen to whatever they say, but also stand within your ground, your boundaries, because it's important to you if something doesn't feel right.
So I think we can't emphasize enough, communication is super, super important in relationship, in pleasure, in sex. And I'm sure, like us, we have promoted so much of communication. Maybe we can communicate quite well, but sometimes your partner might not be able to communicate what they want. So how can we encourage them to tell what they want?
So, in this situation when it's quite tough for your partner to communicate, and again, communication is something uncomfortable, right? But here's the thing about uncomfortable conversations. Uncomfortable conversations create a healthy relationship. I'm going to repeat that again. Uncomfortable conversations create a healthy relationship. So, when it comes to sort of encouraging your partners to talk about certain things, first of all, really acknowledging whatever they're feeling. Yes, they're feeling insecure. Yes, they're feeling uncomfortable. But also giving them this safe space like, hey, I won't judge you, whatever you say. And also really mean it too. That you don't judge them and you just want to hear them out and you wanted to know what they like. So really opening up like, hey, I really want to know what you like. I really want to hear what you love. Because then we can, have this really amazing session. Listen to actually what they're saying, and don't just attack and converse. Just have a moment and just listen, not to respond.
So I think some partners, maybe it's hard for them to articulate what they want. And I think sometimes just tell them, okay, do you like this? Or do you like that? And exploring, right? Because sometimes they might also doesn't know what they like.
Correct.
Right? So exploring can, sometimes just spend time connected, touching each other, asking, does this feel good or does that feel good? And I think sometimes people just go into penis-vagina penetration too soon without playing, without exploring. Then of course, do you like, you have too narrow things to ask, do you like this or not? If you only do like these 3 things, then it's hard for the person to tell you if he likes it or not. But if you're doing like 10 things, then they will say, oh, okay, I prefer this more, prefer this less. I think it's all about play and connection and a lot of communication.
Yeah. I think like just creating a space for both of you to at any point to just talk about whatever you want to talk about, but also don't pressure, right? Like whenever, sometimes we get like really gung-ho. We're like, no, you want me to tell me now. And that can be very scary and can be very unsafe for us to talk about it.
Traumatized
some more. So what I normally do is I'm always like, hey, if you have anything you want to tell me, just let me know. Otherwise, or if I have something to tell you, I will let you know. So really about communication, especially if we didn't grow up having this very openly communication with our friends, with our family, it's quite tough. So it does take a lot of practice to do this. So don't be too hard on yourself if you find it hard.
So I think if in a relationship there's someone who communicates better, that person can always lead the other person or teach the other person how to communicate better. But if the case of both parties doesn't know how to communicate, what is your advice?
both parties doesn't know how to communicate. Watch this video. Watch this video.
Okay.
Maybe if both parties can't communicate well, I think it's just find a way where you are most comfortable, because sometimes maybe talk face to face can be very confronting for some people. So maybe if you want to try maybe writing on a letter or texting each other, because sometimes just talking about it, we need some time to process. For some of us, we need some time to process our words. We need to properly compose what we want to say. So if writing is easier for you to express yourself, then do that. If maybe watching a movie, kind of like hinting like, oh, that looks good, maybe we should do that, instead of saying like, I want this. But the most important thing is to turn complaints, not to make things like, not complaining, but you're actually complimenting, and you're actually being very, very kind to our partners, because again, we can be very touchy sometimes. So just be mindful.
So I think you can always start with the maybe, yes, no list. That is a very good starting point, because you're not really communicating yet, but it's a topic that, I'm surprised that you would want to try this. So it creates more conversation. Then it takes a lot of practice. You start with something, then as you practice, you communicate better.
Sometimes there are also like a lot of these questions on the internet too. So all these questions, like relationship questions of like, what do I do that makes you happy? Those kind of questions. They could also be sexual based questions. Or would you like it? You can just print those questions out, or you can put it on your phone, on your tablet or whatever, and just really sit down for a moment and just really have this back and forth questions as well. That could also be fun to really get to know your partner, if it gets hard for you to just talk openly.
I remember there is this, like, you have like how many questions that after you answer you will fall in love with each other.
Yes, 38 questions.
All right, so go and search it and do these activities with your partner, and maybe after that 38 questions you are more deeply in love because of communicating with each other. Okay, so how about communicating our shame and insecurity? Sometimes there are so much of shame and insecurity in us, or even trauma. How do we communicate that?
The thing about shame is that it's a different type of emotion where it's actually like an inward sort of emotion. You're looking towards yourself. It's about unworthiness. That's why we feel this shame, right? And so I think the first important thing is to really feel all that you need to feel. Because sometimes we feel shame and we just ignore it and we just suppress it. But really feel what you need to feel, and just really understanding where is this shame coming from. And then sort of when you approach your partner and telling all of this, really sort of it's a very uncomfortable conversation. It can be scary. You're afraid of being judged, and these are all very valid sort of reason. But just really coming up to your partner and just telling them, hey, I want to share this thing that happened to me, and I'm really afraid. And just really set the scene, set the tone for them, so that they can then be more actively participating and actively listening and not judging. And then just share slowly, and also if you know that they're kind of person that kind of forces information out of you, really tell them like, I want you to be kind to me, don't force information. This is already a big step for me, and just be honest, right? This is already a big step for me. I'm really afraid, so this is what happened, and maybe I will only tell you this little information, and then gradually, if I'm more comfortable, I'll tell more and more, but this is a step. So yeah.
I think when it comes to insecurity and trauma, the listening party needs to be no judgment and a bit more kind, right? Because you really don't know what someone goes through, and sometimes when they tell you something, it's maybe just the tips of the iceberg, because they also don't know how vulnerable they can be when it comes to you, right? And I think also it's quite common for men to suppress their emotion for maybe sometimes too long, and they are not able to feel it anymore, right? Because from young, sometimes you say, man up, don't cry, like men are always told like, you shouldn't express your emotion. So men is like, when you're happy, I remember the old days, when dad smile is no good. Dad should be always serious, right? Like, so I think like men shouldn't have fun, these are the emotion that doesn't relate to being man. Manly is always like cool, and
You can't be
serious.
vulnerable. You have to be
Yes.
strong all the time. You have to carry the strength of everybody.
Yes.
And I think this is also like a really great reminder if for us who are in, you know, relationship, whether it be romantic or just be friends, for example, with our friends, especially with guys, when they are opening up to us, it takes a lot of, so for some of them, it takes a lot of them to open up and to just, for us to just really hold space for them and don't have any judgment, just really be kind. Because sometimes, you know, like I remember when I was younger and I didn't know better, whenever someone like a guy friend were to cry to me, I'm like, "Ayo, why so weak?" But then now as an adult, I'm like, it takes a lot of them, and it's actually really healthy for them to, you know, really release all that they've been feeling.
I mean, as human, when we are happy, we are supposed to laugh, and we are sad, we are supposed to cry. And imagine a man, they are being suppressed so much, they can't cry because it shows like people will think they are weak. So sometimes expressing their insecurity, or even, you know, maybe they will feel shame because they are not man enough. I think it also takes a lot of trust and courage to express yourself, right? Yeah. So when you're talking about holding a safe space for a partner to express yourself, what do you mean by that?
Holding a safe space for a partner to really express themselves means just really sitting down with them and just really listening, just really giving them space to speak whatever they want to speak. We don't force them to share everything, or, you know, just for them to really say whatever they need to say at their own time. We don't push them, we don't judge them, and just really have an empathetic ear. So whatever they're saying, we just like, oh, I'm really sorry you went through that. And sometimes one of the things that I like to do when it comes to sort of group setting, when we're doing safe space and stuff, we try not to hug the person who's crying or who's whatever, because the moment we hug them, the moment we go like, oh my god, I'm so sorry this happened, it made them feel like, oh no, I'm so weak, you know, like sometimes. So then you start to like, okay, no, I don't want to cry, or whatever, like that, just suddenly be strong. But I just let them feel their feelings. So
can I actually hug the person and say, okay, cry it out loud?
Well, one thing that I do is that I will ask them, like, would you like a hug?
Okay.
Would you like a
Getting
hug?
consent.
Correct. Like, would you like a hug? Would it feel better? Like, what? Or the best one is, what can I do to make you feel good? You know, and then maybe they would say like, I just want you to say encouraging words, or maybe I just want you to hold my hand, you know, because what happens is that sometimes we get uncomfortable when we see our partners or friends crying or whatever, and then the worst thing, and it's very normal too, we just want to hug them, we just want to protect them, but sometimes that may not be what they want.
Okay, so of course, I think for women it's also the same. I mean, that when we're talking about men, it's about unable to feel the emotion. For women, it's maybe a lot of sexual shame, or even body shame, right? Like, oh, you should look this way or that way. How do we communicate to our partners about this insecurity? Like, when your partner is telling you, oh, tell me what you like, but inside you, you have so much shame, right? You feel like, oh, good girl should not feel pleasure, good girl should not like sex. How do you, as a partner, how do you encourage the woman to express what they want?
I think it's just, again, you know, having this safe space for them to really express whatever they need to express, and really encouraging them. I think all the time, all our lives, I mean, not speaking to all women, but most women have always been told, like, again, what you said, you know, like, don't feel your pleasure, it's all shameful and everything. But, you know, as a partner, it would be really helpful if you just kind of come in and just, again, ask them, what do you want me to say? How can I best support you? And just really encouraging them, no, I actually really want to know, because I want to make you feel good. I want to make you feel, you know, amazing and feel gorgeous, and I think your body is great. You know, like, all of these words of affirmation. For me, personally, words of affirmation work. For some people, it might be a bit different. What about you? Do words of affirmation work?
For me, it's touch. A lot of touch, right? If the person touched me a lot, it gives me a lot of security. So I think it works different for different people. Some people doesn't like to be touched, right? So for your case, it's like giving you a lot of word of encouragement and affirmation. So I think talk to your partner. And every time someone asks me, how do I pleasure a woman? Then I always say, which woman? Tell me which lady. I will talk to that lady because everyone is different, right?
Correct.
So there's no formula to, you know, how to pleasure a person. But of course, there are some advice and guidelines that you can refer, but you always ask the partner.
Yeah.
You know, if you really like this.
It's not one size fits all kind of thing. So like what works with your previous partner may not be the same with your current partner.
Yes.
So I mean, it's the same question that I get as well. Like, how do I pleasure a woman? I'm like, have you ever asked them? Did you ask them this question? No, like I just want to know. Like again, we are not mind readers. As much as we are told that, you know, men are sexual beings or like whatever, we are not mind readers. Men are not mind readers as well. So just really be able to talk to your partner and just really ask them, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? And this actually then create this really safe and supportive environment for us to just really be ourselves.
But I think another reason why men are afraid to ask their partner what they like is because they don't want to be perceived as, I don't know how to make love to a woman, right? So it takes also confidence for them to just ask what you like, right? Because sometimes I feel some of the men, they don't have proper education on how to pleasure a woman, and what they see is usually from pornography, which is most of the time wrong because they are very skewed towards men pleasure instead of woman's pleasure.
Correct.
So when a man doesn't know how to pleasure a woman, for them to ask also, it takes a little bit of confidence to ask.
Right, it's really insecure. It's very like, oh, you don't know, man, you should know that. You know, like, you know, watch so much porn for what? No, and it's very fair as well. But I think it's so these are the kind of things that we need to change. I think as a society, it's a narrative that we need to change. We need to empower people to just not depend on pornography again, but really just asking all these questions. And it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of learning that we have on our head, which is why it's great that we have this sort of conversation to just, you know, have different opinions and just talk about it.
I think you see, you know, sometimes I also think men, they tend to boast about their sexual performance, but actually there is a lot of anxiety in them. It's just that, oh, you know, I'm very good, you know, always talking about how good they are, but it's really not about how good you are. It's how attentive, how much you listen to your partner. You know, if you don't listen to your partner, if she is already having that look that she's not comfortable and you're still doing the same thing, means you're not present at all.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of respect for my partners who actually tell me straight up or ask me straight up, like, what do I like and what do I not like, and also tell me straight up, like, I'm actually quite insecure in certain places. I might not be 100% perfect, but hey, it's both of us to kind of figure it out, and that has a lot of merit too.
I think there's another thing, a trick that you can do is also you can always tell your partner, you know, I get better over time. So there's no anxiety when it's first date or first time sex, right? It's like, okay, usually for the first time, I still don't know what you like. You might not also know what I like. I would think over time, we get better.
Correct. Agreed.
Okay. Another thing I think usually happens with women, like they are afraid to say no. And sometimes when they say no, they feel guilty about it. How can we learn to say no and don't feel guilty about it?
How can we learn to say no and don't feel guilty about it? First of all, is understanding that a no makes you safe. No's are there to help you feel safe. Boundaries are there to help you feel safe, right? So it's really important. Your no matters. And how can we say no without feeling guilty? I think first of all is to, again, I said just now about like finding a neutral time to really have this conversation and telling them no. Another way is to probably understand also where they're coming from and just really sit down with them. Why do they feel like your no doesn't matter and everything? Just listening to them, but also again staying true with your boundaries. It's very uncomfortable, but it's really. How would you say no to someone and be comfortable with it?
I think usually I will say in a playful way, right, so that they don't feel offended. But if they still don't get it, then I will be a bit more firm.
Yes.
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 I think, you know, as a start, you always say, like, if you you are too harsh to the person might get a bit offended, right? What happened? Like, what did I do that you have such a big reaction and say no in such a hard way? So I think you can just say it in a very playful way, and usually people will get it. Yeah.
I like how you said about being firm, because I think that's also very important. Because what happens is that sometimes we say no, but then at the same time you're like, oh, but like no, and then people, that's a way for people to kind of push you and push you further, like to force you to do certain things. But be firm when you know, and be really short about it.
Yes.
Don't give so many like, oh, actually because of this, because then it allows them to then say like, oh, okay, this person is still like, I can still convince them otherwise. So say no, be firm about it. Don't have so much, just keep it short, and maybe also offer alternative.
Okay.
You know,
wow,
like,
that's good.
offer. I can't do this. No, maybe we should do this instead. Where both of us are comfortable. I think I like doing that. Like offer alternative.
Okay, and I think this is something really important for young girls to learn. I think a lot of times they are being caught in the moment. They just don't know how to say no, right? It's like at that situation, like example, if you are being invited to a guy's home, or he maybe offer you something, I'll cook for you or something, right? So you go there with the intention of I'm not going to have sex with him, but then it leads to maybe he wanted to have sex with you and you wanted to say no.
Right.
And sometimes I feel certain women, they are just being caught at the moment and they actually are not comfortable, but they continue anyway because they feel like, oh,
it's an obligation.
It's my fault because I come to this person's house, right? I shouldn't have come. No, I think you just need to be firm. And I think for me, it's like, first I will say it in a playful way. If that person doesn't get it, I will say it in a very firm way. If he still doesn't get it, I will hold his hand and I will say, no. You know, then the person know that you're serious. It's a hard no.
For me, I'll actually be very firm from the beginning. I'll actually tell them straight up like, hey, at first I would like lie a bit, but then after a while I'm like, hey, you know what? This actually makes me really uncomfortable. I came here because I want to spend time with you, and this actually makes me really uncomfortable. It's turning me off. It makes me question whether I made the right decision. I'm like really straightforward that way, because it's like if it's a no, it's kind of like, you know, then they'll be like forcing. So I've learned that. I've been in that situation before where I went to a guy's house and with no intention of doing anything, just wanted to hang out, and I did feel guilty because I'm already in this space. I already put myself in this space. But the most important thing is that it is not a token. Just because you said no to one thing, it doesn't mean that everything automatically opened up. The whole package opened up. No, it doesn't come with a package. So just because you open one present doesn't mean all the presents you have to open. So that's also very important for all of us to know. And you know matters.
And I think sometimes you can also set the expectation right. Like you say, okay, I'm okay to come into your place, but I just don't want to send the wrong message that actually I'm still not ready to get intimate. So that person who invite you must know that this is your intention, right? Because sometimes men might make assumption, oh, I invited this person to come to my home and she say yes, then yes is yes to everything, right?
I love what you said about setting expectation, because that's what I do as well. I set expectation, but also at the same time, in besides us giving expectation, is also us asking the other person, what is your expectation? You know, what would you like to do tonight? Kind of thing as well.
So what are consents and boundaries, and why are they so important?
So consent and boundaries are basically what you are comfortable in doing. So if someone pushes your boundaries, it makes you feel uncomfortable, it makes you feel really sad or upset, or you know, all of that. So those are boundaries, what you can and cannot do, or will not do. Consent is giving permission, and most of the time with consent, it's about our bodies, right? So they are important because consent and boundaries keep us safe. It makes us feel like, you know, there are certain times, I think when I was younger, I would go to someone's house and then my boundaries are being pushed, and when I went back home, I just feel really bad about myself. I just feel really crappy, and a lot of this has something to do with our boundaries being pushed. So it's very important for us to know what our boundaries are, even if we don't know, to sort of be able to tell the other person, like, actually, I'm not really sure if I'm comfortable with this, but let's see. If I'm not comfortable, I will tell you, and I will stop kind of doing.
I think communicating your boundaries is very, very important. And sometimes people doesn't know what you're comfortable and what you're not comfortable. So I think we cannot emphasize enough. Communication is really, really important in all relationship, especially, you know, sex and this healthy sex relationship thing.
Yes.
Okay, so any final say before we end today's Facebook Live?
Yeah, I think my main thing is no, it's a normal part of sex. No is important. Boundaries and consent are there to make you safe. And unhealthy and uncomfortable conversation creates a healthy relationship.
Can you repeat that again? I think that is very, very important.
Yeah, so no, it's important. No is a way for us. No is good. And consent and boundaries are there to keep us safe. And finally, uncomfortable conversations create healthy relationships.
So start having uncomfortable conversation. I think so many people are not able to have all this uncomfortable conversation, but it's so, so important. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you everyone for today's Facebook Live.